Welcome back to the deep dive. If you live anywhere in coastal North Carolina, we're talking Wilmington, Leland, across Brunswick County, you know your wooden fence is constantly under attack.
It really is. It's not just standing there. It's in a fight every single day.
It is. And today we're unpacking the essential guide from Port City Fence on how you can protect that investment.
And this is hyper-focused on our local environment. The salt, that oppressive humidity, and, that relentless Carolina sun.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest visual that every homeowner sees, the dread of the gray fence.
Mm-hmm.
You step outside one day and your beautiful wood fence just looks washed out, faded, and the immediate panic is, my fence is rotting, it's dead wood.
That is the perfect place to start because it's such a fundamental misconception.
Right.
Gray wood is rarely dead wood, not in the immediate sense anyway. It's more like a cosmetic wound, but it's one that's signaling danger down the road.
So what's actually happening? What is that gray?
It's mostly UV damage. The sun's rays are breaking down the lignin in the wood fibers. And lignin is, it's basically the glue that holds the wood together and gives it color.
So it's not rot, it's photodegradation. A sunburn, basically.
Exactly. It's the big visual cue that your fence has a severe sunburn and it needs a spa day, followed by some serious sunscreen.
And if you ignore it.
If you ignore that graying, the fibers get brittle, they start to hold water differently, and that is what opens the door for the real rot and decay to set in.
So our mission today is to give you the steps to prevent that.
Precisely. To show you how Port City Fence recommends cleaning and protecting your wood fence to make sure it lasts in our very unique coastal climate.
Because that graying, if you let it go, it goes from an aesthetic problem to a structural one pretty fast.
It really does, which leads us right into the first phase here, understanding what we're actually fighting. The guide breaks it down into 4 specific environmental adversaries.
The 4 horsemen of coastal fence decay.
You could say that.
Let's start with the one that literally blows in off the Atlantic.
That would be salt spray. It's a primary culprit, especially for anyone near the water. Think Carolina Beach, Cure Beach, Southport, Wrightsville Beach.
And this isn't just sticky air, right?
No, not at all. It's microcrystals of corrosive salt carried on the wind. And that salt, it accelerates the aging of the wood chemically. It traps moisture right up against the surface.
Which is bad for the wood, and I'm guessing even worse for the nails and screws.
Exactly. We'll get more into that later, but it creates this highly corrosive environment for any metal fasteners. It is a slow, constant chemical attack.
Okay, so if salt is the chemical enemy, the second threat is biological, and this one hits everywhere, from Hampstead to Leland.
High humidity. You feel it the second you step outside. It's the perfect incubator for mildew, algae, and mold.
Yeah, you see those green and black spots in the shady corners?
Right. And what's interesting is that sometimes the inland areas, like parts of Leland, can actually hold that humidity even longer than the beachfront, which gets more of a breeze. And when those organisms take root, they're not just sitting there, they're literally eating the wood surface.
Leading to rot and warping.
You got it.
Okay, so we have a chemical attack from salt, a biological attack from mold. What's number 3?
The blazing sun and those UV rays. We talked about the graying, but it's really a 2-pronged attack. First, it disintegrates the lignin, causing that gray color. Second, it just bakes the essential moisture out of unprotected wood. That leads to shrinkage, which you see as cracking and splitting.
And once a crack forms, it's like a highway for water to get in deeper.
A perfect channel.
Yeah.
It just ensures that the cycle of rot can continue. And finally, you have the really dramatic moments, heavy rain and storms.
Hurricanes, nor'easters, or just a Tuesday afternoon thunderstorm in July.
Right. The sheer volume of water forces moisture deep into the wood, but it also embeds dirt, sand, and grit into the fibers. And if you don't clean that out, it just acts like sandpaper, constantly wearing down the surface.
So salt, moisture, sun, and debris. Knowing the enemy is step 1.
It is. Now we can arm ourselves.
Let's talk about the prep stage. Gathering the tools for a safe and, effective wash.
The tools are pretty simple, but how you use them is key. You need a garden hose, a stiff bristled brush, safety gear. But the big discussion point is always the pressure washer.
Right. The pressure washer feels like the quick, powerful solution. But there's a huge warning in the guide about this.
A massive one. If you use one, you have to keep the PSI, the pounds per square inch, extremely low. The guide is explicit. Stay below 1,500 PSI.
What happens if you go higher?
If you go higher, especially on softwoods like pine or cedar that are so common here, you're not just cleaning the wood, you are physically shredding the fibers.
Shredding sounds pretty violent. What does that actually look like on the fence?
It looks fuzzy. When you blast the surface with too much pressure, you literally rip the outer wood fibers, and it leaves this rough, fuzzy texture.
And I'm guessing that's not just a cosmetic issue.
It's a huge functional problem. That fuzzy texture acts like a sponge. It dramatically increases the wood's porosity, so it ends up trapping even more water, which invites all that mildew and mold right back in, but faster this time.
So low pressure, wide fan nozzle, or just stick to the hose and brush to be safe.
That's the safest bet.
Okay, and since we're talking about cleaning solutions, even mild ones, we need safety gear.
Definitely. Gloves, goggles, and also think about your landscaping. We have beautiful coastal plants, hydrangeas, gardenias. Before you spray anything, lay down a tarp. It just protects those delicate root systems from any runoff.
A really good tip. Now, for the actual cleaner, Port City Fence recommends a surprisingly simple, eco-conscious DIY recipe. What's in it?
For general cleaning, it's super effective. You just take 1 gallon of warm water, mix in 1 cup of white vinegar, and add a few drops of dish soap.
And what does each part do?
The dish soap is a surfactant, so it helps lifts the grime off the surface. And the vinegar is a mild acid that gently cleans away that surface biological growth like mildew.
And what about for really tough stains? That deep black algae that never seems to come off?
For those, you can substitute the white vinegar for oxygen bleach. It's a powerful oxidizer that breaks down the darker pigments in mold and algae, but it's not as harsh on the wood fibers as, say, chlorine bleach.
Good to know, but always test it on a small spot first.
Always, no matter what cleaner you use.
So you've got your tools, you've got your cleaner, and you're looking at a full weekend of work ahead of you. Maybe you're realizing this whole process, the scrubbing, waiting for it to dry, the sealing is just too much.
And this is a perfect reality check moment.
Yeah.
If looking at this list of steps makes you want to just pack a cooler and head to the beach instead.
Which is very understandable.
Very. Just remember that Port City Fence offers lower maintenance options. Durable vinyl fences, for example, are specifically designed to just shrug off all that salt and humidity. It's often the best long-term solution for busy homeowners here.
That's a great point. A pivot from maintenance to installation. But for those of us who love our wood fences, let's jump into the 5 steps to bring them back to life. Step 1 is the intelligence phase. Inspect for weather damage.
This is more than a quick glance. It's a thorough checkup. You're walking the entire perimeter, looking for very specific signs of coastal stress.
What are the main things that should jump out at you?
First, the biological attack. Those green or black mildew spots, usually in damp, shaded areas. Second, the structural damage from the sun, cracked, split, or warped boards. And third, that hazy white salt film, especially on the side that faces the ocean.
Okay, but there's one thing in this inspection that's a huge red flag, something that signals a severe structural threat.
It's fasteners.
The fasteners.
You have to look for rusted fasteners, the nails or the screws. Salt corrosion works incredibly fast on standard metal. Once that metal starts to rust and swell, it loses its structural integrity, and critically, its pull-out resistance.
Meaning in the next big storm.
Those boards are far more likely to just detach. It can lead to a major failure of the whole fence.
So if you find widespread rot or a lot of rusted fasteners, you're past the DIY cleaning phase.
That's the moment to call in the professionals. Scott, one of our expert estimators and craftsmen, can come out and assess the damage. He can give you a quote for just replacing a few boards or, if it's necessary, for a full replacement built with the right pressure-treated lumber and fasteners for our conditions.
Got it. Okay, so assuming the inspection passes, step 2 is simple. Rinse with fresh water.
This step is so fundamental, but people rush it. You're just using a garden hose or your low-pressure washer setting to get that top abrasive layer off the loose salt, sand, and dirt. If you skip this, your cleaner is just pushing sand around instead of getting to the grime.
Makes sense. Step 3, apply the cleaner.
Right. You've got your mix ready, work in manageable sections. About 10 feet at a time is good. Apply the solution evenly with a sprayer, start from the bottom, and work your way up.
And the most important instruction here is what?
Let it soak for about 10 to 15 minutes, but do not let it dry on the surface. If it dries, it can leave streaks, and it just makes a mess. If you see it starting to dry, just mist it with a little fresh water to keep it active.
Okay. And now for the hard work. Step 4, scrub thoroughly.
Time for that stiff bristled brush. But the technique here is absolutely critical. You must always scrub with the grain of the wood.
Not against it.
Never against it. If you scrub against the grain, you risk tearing and marring the surface. And just like with a high-pressure washer, you create these little channels that trap water and invite failure.
Scrubbing is done. The final cleaning step is step 5, Final rinse and dry.
You're going to rinse thoroughly, top to bottom, until the water runs completely clear, and this part is non-negotiable. You have to get all of that cleaning solution residue off.
Why is that so important?
Any soap or chemical left behind will create a barrier, and that will stop the sealant from sticking properly. You'd basically be wasting the entire next step.
And here on the humid coast, drying time isn't just a few hours.
Not even close. You have to allow the fence to dry completely. Depending on the humidity and sun, that can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours.
And if you seal it while it's still damp,
You're sealing moisture in. You create this perfect little greenhouse for fungus and rot to grow inside the wood. You have to wait until it's bone dry.
which leads us perfectly to what the guide calls the coastal sealing mandate. Cleaning is only half the battle.
It's the non-negotiable final step. This is what turns your clean fence into a fortified structure. Once it's clean and totally dry, you have to apply a high-quality sealant.
So what are we looking for in a product? What does it need to have for our climate?
It needs to be a high-quality, UV-blocking, and water-repellent stain or sealant. Don't just grab a generic can off the shelf. For the coast, you need active protection. Think of it like a microscopic raincoat for every single wood fiber.
So let's detail the 3 specific protections it provides against all those threats we just talked about.
Okay, first, it defends against salt corrosion. The sealant forms a shield that stops salt from penetrating the wood fibers. Second, it fights the sun. It's like a sunscreen for your fence.
Blocking the UV rays.
Exactly. The pigments and stains or the chemical blockers in clear sealants, they stop that graying and cracking process before it can even start. And third, it deals with our humidity.
How so?
It completely repels water. It actively fights the moisture and humidity, which stops mildew, algae, and mold from being able to regrow. It just interrupts that whole cycle of decay.
That makes perfect sense. So given how intense our climate is, how often do we need to do this?
For most coastal areas, Wilmington proper, Castle Hayne, Boiling Spring Lakes, the recommendation is to seal it every 2 to 3 years.
But what if you're right on the water?
If you are oceanfront, or very close to it where that salt spray is constant, the guide really stresses that you need to do it annually. Annual sealing is key for the best protection.
And the cost of doing that annually is way less than replacing a whole fence.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tiny investment to protect a much larger one.
And if getting the application right, waiting for that perfect weather window, if that all seems a bit much, this is another one of those moments where professional insight can really help.
For sure. At Port City Fence, we understand the materials, the best finishes, and how they hold up in our climate. That expertise is just baked into every installation we do.
As we wrap this up, there's a reality check we need to touch on, something every homeowner here has to keep in mind about regulations.
Yes. The unfortunate truth is that regulations can change faster than the tide, especially when it comes to permits, setbacks, and what materials your HOA or town will allow.
Right.
And while our team, especially Lisa, who handles all the permits, does everything to keep homeowners informed, you should always double-check. Go to the official resources links on the PortCityFenceOfWilmington.com page to get the final word from the town before you start any major repairs or replacements.
A little bit of homework can save a huge headache.
It really can.
So, protecting your wood fence in this beautiful, but let's face it, brutal coastal environment is an ongoing process.
It is. But if you do that critical inspection, clean it the right way, scrubbing with the grain, and do that mandatory sealing, you can really maximize the lifespan of your investment and keep it looking great.
A well-maintained fence means durability and curb appeal. And help is always just a phone call away.
That's right. We're a family-owned business specializing in building things to last right here on the coast.
Ready to restore that gray fence? Or maybe you just need Scott to swing by and take a look at those rusted fasteners and give you a quote. Call us at 910-232-5453, email portcityfence@hotmail.com, or visit portcityfenceofwilmington.com to schedule your free estimate today.